Hi, folks. It's Rob Downs at Managed IT Solutions. It is Tuesday, so it is now time for another Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm going to get a little specific this week on regional, I guess is a better way of putting it. We are based here in North Carolina, so I didn't know if you knew that or not. But what I want to address is, you know, one of the things that I think all the taxpayers in North Carolina should know about is the way that cybersecurity is handled at the municipal, county, state, and school system levels. Um, I've talked to a few people in some counties and city governments about certain things, and whenever we start mentioning cybersecurity and what we could do for them possibly, they usually refer back to the fact that they're kind of covered by the state. So that being said, our state kind of has a cyber problem. It's not because of a lack of talent. I mean, we've got three very large, prestigious universities here in just the Triangle, and many, even the community college that my daughter attends has an IT and cybersecurity program, right? So there's talent here to be tapped. It's just, budgetary constraints mostly, right? So, unfortunately, our state, and not the state necessarily, but entities within our state, government entities within our state, are taking an approach that's not preventative, right? They are response only, basically, is what it comes down to, right? So, um, many school systems, cities, and counties, that's basically what it comes down to. They're running the basic equivalent of hope nothing happens, bad happens, and if something does, then they can call on the state's cyber response team, which I think the National Guard actually was a huge part of that. So um, I want to make sure everybody understands that that might not be the case for some of the larger cities, Raleigh or Charlotte necessarily, but definitely for smaller counties, there's been multiple instances of cities and counties being offline for weeks or months because they had a cyber attack. And while they were able to recover with the assistance of the cyber response team from the state, I mean, how, besides being inconvenient, um, what type of data did these cyber attacks the breaches result in, the loss of, right? So, what did the bad guys get access to is what it comes down to. And in many cases, uh, you know, 911 systems have been affected, right? They're offline. So that brings into to question, were there any lives lost because of 911 being offline? I did not go and research that. I would presume that I would have seen large articles, hopefully, if that were the case, to bring it more to the front. But it's the old adage, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. I think I don't know how much the state is spending on the cyber response team, or if they're calculating what their losses are um, financially, um, from these, employees sitting around not doing anything because they can't have access to any of the systems because they're offline for weeks at a time. So um, basically, the reality of today is many counties don't have a dedicated cybersecurity budget, right? Most of the school systems fall under that same concept. They're running outdated hardware and unpatched operating systems. Um, from the student side, there was a big influx 5 years ago with COVID money, right? So a lot of schools got extra computers for the staff too, but mainly for the students. And most of those are Chrome based systems, and so they're kind of insulated and protected by the whole Chrome OS um, infrastructure in the way that it is set up. But the front office systems aren't done that way, right? And that's where the data for kids' grades, their social security numbers, parents' contact information, all that lives there, right? So, and then of course, like I said, counties and cities, especially small municipalities, don't have any budget for it. They don't think about it. Um, and even after the fact, I think they're not really focusing on what happened and how do we stop this in the future. Because I've also heard from some sources that they come in and fix stuff, but it doesn't change the daily operations, right? And it in business world, we see about 20% of businesses don't take action, right? So good news is 80% of most businesses do take some action after a cyber attack. They harden themselves up. They take things a little bit more seriously. They give budget where it's needed to be able to, increase their cyber footing. And in many cases, a lot of times these things that can be done, you could spend multiple dollars per student or per capita, resident, whatever you want to consider it, for cybersecurity. But sometimes it's just a matter of creating a scope for the state that these entities have to abide by, right? So complex password or password policy, MFA enablement. Many systems will let you do that without additional cost. You just have to turn it on and enforce it, right? It's a matter of policy. It's not a matter of having to pay for more tools. Now, sometimes to manage it, you're going to have more people, and to monitor it, you might have to have some more tools. But a lot of things are built into different systems. So, and then of course, cybersecurity training for employees, can be attained for many of these organizations and groups, which also help, of course. So, again, not saying that this is the end all be all and the perfect opportunity, but lots of times you find that these breaches are done because people click on the wrong things, just like in the real world for everyone else. Or you've got stagnant old passwords and usernames that are in systems that have been there for 20, 30, I don't necessarily hope 40 years, but certainly 20 plus years. And no one's changed it, right? No one's done an audit to see the last time an account was logged in, for example, and then determine if no one's used it, that it should be deleted or it should be deactivated completely, right? So these are some things that are there. Here's some examples that have happened in our state in the past couple of years. And I have a sneeze that really wants to come out. So we'll see if that comes out here in a second. Pardon me. There you go. I was waiting for it. Pamlico County had their property records knocked offline by ransomware. It took a couple weeks to get that straightened out. Bladen County, again, down east, had an attack so serious that they ended up bringing in the Joint Cybersecurity Task Force to investigate and help them remediate. Haywood County Schools had ransomware that brought in the National Guard, which is part of the Joint Cybersecurity Task Force, the next day. And of course, there have actually been several North Carolina community colleges attacked that led to shutdowns and some state level intervention. So, this isn't theory. And this is reality, right? These are, go Google it. You can go find it. They happened. And basically, this is not good cyber strategy. So I'm really talking to folks, like I say, who live in North Carolina, because it affects your services and your tax dollars, right? So it stops real estate transactions at the county level. It can delay court filings, or court itself. Exposes the citizens' data, where you live, your name, phone number, contact information, and it costs real money. If your doctor said, "Don't worry, we don't need to do preventive care. We don't need to have you come in once a year and have a physical and do blood work and check everything. We'll just wait till you have a heart attack or you black out from insulin shock before we ever worry about taking any methodologies." Same thing for dentists, right? This isn't the way you want to run your life. It's certainly not the way any business wants to run. So, I don't think it should be how our state runs, right? It's great that they've got that resource to fall back on, because it's not cheap, right? Recovery services. When we talk to clients or prospects who have been hit by cybersecurity attacks, we typically start numbers in $10 to $15 to $25,000 for a retainer, and that is what it is. It's a retainer. They will be paying more in the long run than just that retainer amount, but it's just to get the ball rolling, right? So it's not an inexpensive endeavor at all. So it's great that all these people have access to this resource. But again, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. The Cybersecurity Joint Task Force, somebody's paying their bills, right? These entities aren't reimbursing the state for the $15, $25, $50,000, $100,000 worth of resources that are dumped into it, right? So again, I think it's important that the state come up with a baseline for cybersecurity for all these entities. That includes them starting to have a real recurring cyber security budget. I think there should probably be more than just the Joint Security Task Force, Cybersecurity Task Force. There should be a Regional Security Operations Center, our SOC, right? Our company engages a third party to help with our client's SOC. And basically, it's manned by real people. So they get alerts from workstations, from network probes, from servers, cloud services, all that type of stuff. And so, something happens, a red flag goes up. I used to say machine learning took care of it. Now I say AI takes a look at it and sees if it's important or not. And it can sort out what it is, and it can take action. Or if it's not sure, it kicks it out to a human being, and a human being takes a look at it, and they usually take action within 5 to 10 minutes. That's how it's worked out for our clients. And so, the state should be, requiring, besides the baseline, you have to have assessments, right? And industry standard is once a year to have an assessment to see where you're at, where your gaps are, and to start filling them in. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to have to be a public and private partnership, right? The state can't staff all this alone. Like for us, the SOC, I could build a SOC as part of our offerings, but estimates from last year, or maybe even the year before that, the minimum was $1 million a year is what it was going to cost me to run a SOC. Well, we kind of just make that in a year, a little bit more. So I'd have to have people to be able to sell it already sold before I'd actually build it. So we outsource, and that's the cheapest way to do it. Find a reputable provider for the services, right? And then tie it into there. So again, I don't want to say every county's this way. I don't want to say every city's this way or every school system is this way. But part of the problem is it's a hodgepodge, right? And so cybersecurity really isn't optional in 2025, certainly not in 2026. AI is just making things, getting to market even faster for the bad guys, right? There are new tools. AI can help them build them out faster and more efficiently. And so, this is about building some base infrastructure. I'm not saying that, every entity needs DoD level type of security. But when it comes to cybersecurity, a lot of times, you're just trying to make yourself a really bad target, right? Card thieves, when they're stealing stuff from parking lots, they usually don't break windows. They usually just go around and open doors, right? They want to find open cars to break into and not have to break a window and draw attention to themselves. So it's simple with cybersecurity. They're looking for simple hits, simple targets. So, I think it's time for us to re-examine how much money we're spending recovering in the losses that we're incurring because of the downtime versus putting a little bit more effort into, yearly assessments and some baseline security products. So while I realize that, you may not be in North Carolina, you may want to ask questions of your public leaders for your city and state or county, and see how they're handling it, and what you don't think it's important. Again, the county I live in, Chatham County's had at least one cyber incident. I want to say two in the past 10 years now, not in the past year, but again, 911 is affected for a couple of days, or at least a day, and then hey, you wanted to file paperwork with the county, you couldn't do it. So that means you couldn't sell something or buy something land-wise, real estate-wise, and that affects, home buyers. It affects banks. It affects realtors, real estate agents. So there's some trickle down here. So I just want to wrap up today's talk. I know it's been very focused on one item for one specific region of the country. Again, if you're not in North Carolina, check with your local government officials and see what's going on with it. Attend a board meeting possibly. These entities and board meetings exist for you as the citizenry to call them to task besides and before election times, and make sure they're doing their jobs. And sometimes they don't realize this is important or this might be a problem. So attend those, raise the questions. North Carolina's local governments or your local governments, they don't need more firefighters when it comes to cybersecurity. They need architects, right? They need border police, that type of thing, right? They need planners. Prevention is the key. It's always going to be better outcomes and lower hits when you've got some prevention in there, right? The bad thing is cybersecurity is not a rotisserie grill from Ron Popeil. You cannot set it and forget it, right? You can't just buy it once, set it up and let it go. You do have to continually pay for it. Again, the bad guys get better tools, so the good guys have to figure out how to thwart them and put new tools in place to help with that, right? So it's certainly something that has to be practiced every day by the people who use the systems. So training goes a long way. I've always said that cybersecurity starts with you. That is no more true than it is with government entities as it is with small businesses, because normally we deal with small businesses. So I just want to remind everybody, operate smarter, aim higher, and remember, cybersecurity starts with you. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Try to stay warm if you're getting hit with an Arctic blast. Hopefully things will turn around here in North Carolina and we'll warm back up and have faux summer for another couple of days. We're back in the 70s. We'll see. Until then,